Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashai, Baharakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the Lord's elect. I'm back in the spirit with a quick video. Lord's will was edifying. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh. The true name of his son is Yahawashai. All right. And the real Hebrew Israelites, the descendants of Jacob, are so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans scattered throughout the earth. We're the 12 tribes, the Most High's chosen people. All right. So I'm back in the spirit. This will be real quick and straight to the point as I'm reading here in Hosea 4. And we'll start at verse 11. All right. We'll start at verse 11. It reads, whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. All right. So spiritually, whoredom and wine here. Well, first of all, whoredom for us Israelites is idolatry. All right. Yeah, there's physical, literal, whoredom, which is, a woman sleeping around with multiple men. All right. Which that's whoredom. OK, but then spiritually, all right, us as a nation, we're likened to a woman, all right, comely and delicate, as the scriptures say, all right, the Most High's woman, all right. So when we as a people go off and, start worshiping idols, committing idolatry, that's likened unto whoredom, all right. And then the wine and new wine, wine represents what? Philosophies, ideologies, all right. Also, idolatry. All right. It says it takes away the heart meaning mind. It draws your mind far away from the Heavenly Father. All right. And I'm going into this to hit the point because this describes our people today. All right. Their mind is taken away far from the Heavenly Father, because of idolatry. All right. They're all into pseudo religions, like Christianity, Catholicism, Islam. Those are the three main ones. All right. And then you have a lot of our people that are into actual witchcraft and sorcery, all type of madness. All right. And that's why they're cursed, because they're far away from the Heavenly Father. Verse 12, it says, my people ask counsel at their stocks. All right. Yeah, they, seek to the Edomite, which the Edomite is the self-proclaimed white man, for his counsel. They look up to his vein power, his technology, right? His medical field. All right. They look to him for answers and guidance. So my people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff declareth unto them, for the spirit of whoredoms hath caused them to err, and they have gone whoring from under their power. Now here's the point in verse 13. They sacrifice upon the tops of the mountains and burn incense upon the hills under oaks and poplars and elms, because the shadow thereof is good. All right. And it, literally in the ancient world, this is what our people would do in groves and, high altars, but they would be sacrificing to idols, false gods. But here's the point, the last part of this verse. Therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom, and your spouses shall commit adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they commit whoredom, nor your spouses when they commit adultery, for themselves are separated with whores, and they sacrifice with harlots. Therefore the people that doth not understand shall fall. All right. But the key thing is, that last part, the Most High said, therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom, and your spouses shall commit adultery. Now, when you go into Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, from verse 15 on down, when it mentions all of those curses that will befall our people if we broke the covenant, which we did break it. All right. And all those curses follow our people to this day. All right. This last part of verse 13, that's one of the curses. All right. For, your wife to be a harlot in the city. Okay. But I'm bringing this out to just show an example. You see how cold the Heavenly Father is. All right. That's why we're to fear him. All right. We're to fear the Most High, reverence and respect him. And the main thing, obey him. As he says, obedience is better than anything. It's better than sacrifice, to obey him, obey his commandments, because he's the one that has the power to make your life a living hell. All right. And that's exactly what he's done to our whole nation for idolatry. OK, when you go into those curses and you see our people today, when you look at the so-called black community, the so-called Latino community, and so-called Native American community, all right, are not, our women harlots, whores, all right? Do not they commit adultery, meaning that they get with a man and then they dealing with another man 2 minutes later? Do not they do that? You see? But then you look at yourself, the majority of our people are out here committing idolatry. So they're being whores. They're being spiritual harlots. They're spiritually committing adultery, fornication against the Heavenly Father. All right. So in turn, the Lord will have them hook up with a woman that commits adultery on them. All right. Just to show you how it feels. You see, the Most High is a jealous power. We're likened unto his woman. We're supposed to be worshiping him and him only. So when you go off worshiping idols, in these pseudo religions, worshiping these false gods, how you think the Heavenly Father feels? That's like your woman stepping out on you. All right. So the Most High transferred that into a literal thing on the earth. Like, all right, y'all gonna go off on me. OK, I'm gonna have your woman. Your woman that you popped her cherry. She's gonna go off on you. See how that feels. Your daughter is gonna be a harlot. She's gonna be known as a whore in the city. See how that feels. You see, the Most High is nothing to play with. Here's another example here in Ezekiel 16. And let's see, the point is in 26. Yeah, the Most High has always called our people out on their wickedness through the prophets. All right, so let's start at 25, the points in 26, Ezekiel 16, 25. Thou hast built thy high place at every head of the way, and has made thy beauty to be abhorred, and has opened thy feet to everyone that passeth by, and multiplied thy whoredoms. All right, so Israel did this in the past, all throughout our history. This is why we got kicked out of the land. Jake was going off, even into, that demonic Canaanite shit. The child sacrifice, Jake was doing it all. All right. You read through Kings, when Jezebel was on the scene with Ahab, Jake was going off. All right. But you look at today, it might be even worse. Idolatry is at an all-time high, especially for these Israelites here in America. All right. Jake is into all type of different things, all type of wickedness. They're worshiping all type of idols. A lot of the time, subconsciously, they don't even know that they're heavily into idolatry. But see, that's why it's important to stick close to the Most High. You see, verse 26, it reads, thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians. Let's go into fornication real quick, because physically and literally, fornication means any unlawful act of sex, all right, including adultery. All right, but this is in the Hebrew, Zanah in the Hebrew. It says to commit fornication, be a harlot, play the harlot. To be a harlot, act as a harlot, commit fornication, to commit adultery, to be a cult prostitute. All right, now here's a key point, figuratively or spiritually, to be unfaithful to the Most High. All right. So, these Jakes, these Israelites out here, how do you expect a woman to be faithful to you? And you're not even faithful to the Most High as his woman. See that? Caused to commit adultery, to force into prostitution, to commit fornication. All right. So this is the Hebrew word for fornication. Going back to Ezekiel 16 and 26. Whenever this blue letter decides to load. It reads, thou hast also committed fornication with the Egyptians, thy neighbors. All right, which the Egyptians are Hamites, and they were into heavy idolatry. They had a god for everything, much like the Elamites today, how they have thousands of gods for everything. Same thing with those Egyptians. It reads, great of flesh and has increased thy whoredoms to provoke me to anger. And that's the key point. When you go off and commit idolatry, that provokes the Heavenly Father to anger. All right. Go into Deuteronomy 28 from verse 15. And I believe the chapter ends at like verse 68. Let's see real fast. We won't go into it, but let's see. So from verse 1 to verse 14, those are all the blessings, for following after the Most High and, sticking to that covenant. But from verse 15, or really verse 16, the curses all the way down to verse 68, the end of the chapter, that's heavy. And our people are living out these curses to this very day. And again, the main one is our women and daughters, Israelite women and Israelite daughters being harlots, whores, straight up sluts, right? Known for committing adultery. All right. This is a penalty. All right. You see, in black culture, so-called black culture, so-called Latino culture. Well, not so-called, that's what it is. Black culture, Latino culture, and Native American culture. And see, most of us don't know too much or experience so-called Native American culture because they're somewhat segregated still. A lot of them still live in what do you call them, reservations. But if and you've actually been to some of those reservations, then you'll see that it's the ghetto. All right. And they're just niggas. All right. They're the exact same is so-called blacks and so-called Latinos. Same people. The same things go on. All right. Nigga culture. Nigga culture is generalized for all of the tribes. All 12 tribes have nigga culture. All right. And what consists of nigga culture? That thug demon, right? Adultery, whoredom, and idolatry. All right. And the result is what? Death. Okay. Death. All right. So, this isn't, of course, the end all be all for our people. The Most High is going to heal our nation. All right. In the kingdom of heaven, there will be no whores amongst our people. All right. Whores amongst our women. Let's see. It's a couple more precepts I wanted to get. This first one. Bear with me a second. We go to the law. It's probably whore. Let's just read a few of these. This is in our law. Leviticus 19:29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness. Leviticus 21:7. They shall not take a wife that is a whore or profane, neither shall they take a woman put away from her husband, for he is holy unto his power. Leviticus 21:9. And the daughter of any priest, if she profane herself by playing the whore, she profaneth her father, she shall be burnt with fire. All right. And I'm just reading these to show how the Heavenly Father feels about a woman being a whore, a woman sleeping around. All right. Which that's become popular today. That's promoted and encouraged amongst women to play the field, to try out different rods. All right. Whores are praised, especially here in America. All of these American women are whores. All right. But in the law, you get your ass burned with fire, burnt alive for being found out to be a whore. All right. Deuteronomy 23:17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel. All right. So so-called black women, Latino and Native American women, there's not supposed to be any whores amongst our women. All right. But again, that's a curse. That's a penalty for us as a nation provoking the Most High to anger. All right. It says, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. What is a sodomite? A homosexual. All right. Everywhere across this place, you have Jake homosexuals, especially of the Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom. So this is a shame. The Most High has shamed our nation amongst the, in the sight of all the other nations. There's not supposed to be no homosexuals and whores in Israel. Let's see, last precept. Let me type this in. Yep, we'll end it right here in Proverbs 8:36. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death. All right, so the Most High gave us his ways, his laws, statutes, and commandments to benefit us so that we could flourish. But when we went off and sinned against him, what does he say? You wrongeth your own soul. All right, so you mess yourself up going against the Heavenly Father. All right. And a good majority of our people here, especially in America, they hate the Most High. That's why they do what they do. All right. But what does that mean? That means they love death, because that's going to be the result every time. The wages of sin is death. Right. So that's it. OK, so hopefully this was edifying. I'm going to end it giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baharakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the Lord's elect. Shalom.